Is it winter or is it spring? Will we see -10 Celsius in the UK this week, or will it reach 16 Celsius? And are we going to see rain or snow or wind or sun or cloud? The answer to these questions is yes. Gotta love March weather. A lot going on with the weather this week. Thank you for joining me for another edition of the Deep Dive, an in-depth look at the UK's weather this week and beyond. I'm Met Office meteorologist Aidan McGivern. If you've not subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, I recommend that you hit the subscribe button because we do these deep dives regularly on a Tuesday and you don't want to miss them when they happen again. They're exclusive to our YouTube channel. Now, before we get into the forecast, let's take a look at what's happened over the last 24 hours because we've seen all sorts across the UK. This is the radar imagery which shows the rain-snow distinction, the rain coloured in blue and the snow coloured in white over the last 24 hours or so. And what you can see is a real mixed bag across the country. Now, we started the week with a lot of mild air, 15 Celsius across parts of England and Wales, but it was a windy afternoon and morning across England and Wales. Bands of rain, followed by a front that crossed northern parts of the country during the day, clearing through central areas, bringing, as you can see, a mixture of rain, sleet and hill snow with it. Now, that's cleared early on from the south, and what we're seeing now is a return to wintriness. So temperatures dropping across the UK and these whites, wintry showers across Scotland, Northern Ireland into northwest England and North Wales. And really for the rest of the afternoon, those wintry showers will continue to affect parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, one or two into North Wales as well. But away from those showers, actually plenty of sunny spells across England and Wales. So a fine afternoon, even if it is feeling a bit colder compared with yesterday, compared with Monday. It's also less windy, but that wind now is coming from the north, so it is feeling cold. Let's take a look at the temperatures. We're looking at high single figures to around 10 or 11 Celsius in the south. That's not far from average actually for the time of year, even if it is considerably colder compared with Monday. But further north, it's below average. We're looking at mid to low single figures in places. In fact, if we zoom in a little bit here, and then you can see across parts of Scotland, 3-4 Celsius, perhaps even lower. I know that at the time of recording, temperature had only reached around ½ degree in Shetland. Might pick up a little bit during the next few hours, but it is pretty cold. In the north, whilst further south, well, temperatures are changing. It's just a sneak peek there at what's happening for the rest of the week. Temperatures are rising. More on that in a moment, but for the time being, let's take a look at the overnight temperatures for tonight because temperatures are going to drop away. We're going to see those snow showers continuing across northern parts of Scotland and some significant snow for the likes of Shetland. For example, we've already seen a decent covering of snow in Shetland. That's caused some impacts. And so yellow snow warning in force for Shetland and snow and ice warnings in force for northwestern parts of Scotland. So snow showers continuing in the far north and northwest overnight. But it's also here where we're going to see the lowest temperatures. Northern Scotland, where we've got some snow cover, especially later in the night as the winds ease, temperatures could dip to around -10 Celsius. And even further south, those temperatures dipping a degree or several degrees below freezing fairly widely across the UK. One exception towards the southwest and the far west. And that's because things are changing. Now let's take a look at the jet stream at the time of recording. And you can see, zooming out a little bit, that jet stream fairly wriggly across the Atlantic, but this dip over the UK, that's brought the cold air in, low pressure across Scandinavia. Another low lining up in the Atlantic to move in, taking off the jet stream, putting on the temperature colours there, and you can see big variations in the pattern. Now, the cold air we saw last week, that was brought by northerly winds. And we've seen this return to northerly winds on Tuesday. Not as cold as it was last week, but nevertheless still fairly chilly, especially in the north. The really cold air there is across Iceland into Greenland. And it's that cold air staying there. But across the UK, we start off Wednesday with cold air in place. But around this area of low pressure, a number of weather fronts start to move in, bringing cloud and outbreaks of rain. And the mild air tries to move in. And you can see this big contrast at this stage. Very mild conditions between warm front and cold front out to the southwest of the UK. Cold air hanging on in the north and northeast. What does that mean? It means that rain that's moving in likely to turn to snow. And in some places there'll be another spell of significant snow, but this time it's mostly hill snow we're thinking about. So we start off Wednesday with the rain moving in. This is Wednesday 9 o'clock, and you can see some snow starting to affect higher parts of Northern Ireland and North Wales. But at this stage, actually, it's only a transient spell of snow for Northern Ireland and North Wales. Actually, the bigger concern is rainfall through Wednesday. Yellow warning in force for rain for Northern Ireland because a considerable amount of rain, 20 to 40 millimetres through the day, could cause some issues with surface water, transport issues and so on. But it's mainly rain by this stage in the day, by the afternoon across Wales, southwest England, accompanied by a strengthening breeze as well. The snow we're talking about is for higher parts of northern England and Scotland. You can see it's picking out the hills there across northern England and into Scotland. So it's late afternoon, early evening, that snow starts to set in. And the kinds of levels we're talking about, relatively low levels, 100 metres plus for snow. But the most accumulations, or the deepest snow starting to build up, are around 200 to 300 metres plus. And for 200 to 300 metres, we're thinking a few centimetres for northern England, southern and central Scotland. So parts of the southern uplands into the highlands there, into as well the Pennines. But above 400 metres for central and southern Scotland, there's the risk of plus 10 centimetres of snowfall. So certainly on some of the higher routes across central and southern Scotland and some of the Trans-Pennine routes during the latter part of Wednesday, there's that risk of disruption, further build-up of snow and so on. Now at lower levels, 100, 200 metres or so, it turns back to rain. But above around 300 or 400 metres, it's snow. Actually, this can be shown using the freezing level map. Talked about this before, but basically this shows the height above the ground, above sea level, of the freezing level. So as you go higher up in the atmosphere, the temperature cools down. At what point does it go below zero? This tells us. And for snow to be falling, you need to be within around 200 metres or so typically. Depends on the heaviness of the precipitation. So when it's heavier precipitation, then you could get away with 300 or 400 metres below the freezing level. But typically it's about 200 metres. That's what you're looking at. There's these greys here on the scale. The blues might indicate some hill snow because this is above sea level. But once you get up to the greens, it's basically rain at most levels across the UK. So skipping forward 12 hours, this is the start of Wednesday. You can see that big gradient suddenly across southwestern and western parts. That freezing level rises because you've got the warm front moving in. So really by mid-afternoon it's all rain, Northern Ireland, Wales and the southwest, because that freezing level is above 1,400 metres. But it's at this stage that the freezing level there is around 200 metres for southwest Scotland into Cumbria. And it looks like across much of central and southern Scotland as well as northern England, it's around 400 metres. So that's why there's that risk of snow above around 100 to 300 metres or so. So that's what that would suggest. Now, playing that further, this is Wednesday evening, and the greens do arrive, so that would suggest that it's going to turn to rain eventually, even if we do see that spell of snow at first. That is apart from central and northern parts of Scotland. The cold air hangs on here, and in fact, there could be something that's not necessarily captured by the model here, something called cold air pooling, where the cold dense air sits closer to the surface across northern parts of Scotland and remains entrenched for a time. So northern Scotland could see a longer period of snow. But across the rest of the UK, really it's a transient spell of snow. It's snow followed by milder air and rain. And that rain, by the time we get to Thursday, is really starting to tot up. Now this is Thursday's rainfall. This is the start of the day. You can see the brighter colours there across parts of southwest Scotland into northwest England, parts of Wales as well. Rain warning currently in force for this area. How much rain are we talking about through Thursday? Well, the next few days really, Wednesday to Friday, we're talking about 70 to, in some places, 100 plus millimetres of rainfall. The wetter spots, not just Wales, but more especially northwest England, southwest Scotland, over the hills there, the rainfall adding up. Now, it has been a dry period, well, until last week at least. Through February, it was a very dry period. So there's a risk of some localised impacts, but we are helped by the fact that it has been a bit drier. Nevertheless, there's a yellow warning for rain. Northern Ireland on Wednesday, and then Thursday for southwest Scotland into northwest England, as well as Wales, the higher parts of these areas seeing some very wet weather. On Thursday itself, we could see some snow to start the day across the far north, mainly Shetland and Orkney, before then the mild air spreads across the whole of the country. How mild is it going to get on Thursday? Well, temperatures fairly widely back up into the mid-teens. That's Friday, this is Thursday. 13s, 14s even across much of England and Wales. It will, of course, depend on rain and wind and cloud and so on. But even across parts of Scotland, 10, 11 Celsius. So for most, Thursday's looking above average temperatures. I think in the far north of Scotland, we cling on to something a bit colder. We've got the early snow replaced by rain, but it's probably going to continue to feel quite cold in the far north and northwest of Scotland. Another way of showing the temperature trend this week, of course, can take a look at some great graphs here, and let's take a look at London there. This is the maximum and minimum temperatures. You can see that trend around average over the next couple of days in the south and then up into the mid-teens. And in fact, I think it's going to be places that are downwind of some higher ground that might see the highest temperatures on Thursday and Friday. So for example, zooming in here, let's take a look at real favoured spot for high temperatures in this kind of southerly airflow, and you can see there 16 Celsius indicated for Friday, and 16 Celsius is possible in a few spots on Friday. So, you know, we're talking about -10 for somewhere like Altnahara in north of Scotland for Tuesday night, and then we're talking about 16 Celsius for somewhere like North Wales by the time we get to Friday. Classic winter to spring transitionary weather. Aberdeen also seeing this significant temperature trend up towards the teens. Stornoway, not so significant. A bit of a boost in temperatures later this week, but like I say, it's likely to stay a bit colder, and likewise for Orkney. 2 Celsius, if that, on Tuesday, and then a bit of a rise later in the week, but not as mild as it is further south. Now, I mentioned the rain, I mentioned the snow, I mentioned the warnings and the temperature swings. So the big question is, what happens as we head into the weekend? Skip forward to Friday itself. Now, on Friday, the area of low pressure that brings those spells of rain on Thursday tends to clear away, but then we're into what's known as a returning polar maritime air mass. This is an airflow that comes in initially from the northwest, then it swings around an area of low pressure and comes up again from the southwest. So it's initially cold, it passes over much warmer seas. You can see it is going to be bringing up some mild air with it, but as it passes over those warm seas, because it's cold at higher altitudes, then it's going to be becoming more and more unstable. So Friday's a showery day, basically. There's going to be a lot of potent showers out there, particularly towards the south and southwest. Some longer spells of rain clearing from the north and northwest of Scotland, but it is also going to be a mild day fairly widely. It will depend on areas of cloud, and there's the potential for this little weak weather front here just to affect south and southeastern areas, could bring some more prolonged rain with it. That's something we're keeping an eye on. Some variations in the different computer models associated with that system, but somewhere like the Midlands into northeast England, North Wales, as I mentioned, 15, 16 Celsius possible on Friday. Skipping ahead to the weekend, and again, a similar sort of setup. We've got low pressure slowly pulling away and some uncertainty about how quickly that low does clear away on Saturday. It's likely to bring some spells of rain or showers with it as it pulls away. You can see one there crossing parts of England and Wales, so it's fairly unsettled as we start the weekend. But there is a general theme in the computer models, even if they do differ in terms of timings, for the first low at the weekend to clear, for colder but more settled conditions to arrive. And so if the timings are as per this graphic here, this computer model run, and they're not all like this in the different computer models, then you'd see a colder, more settled interlude later Saturday and into the start of Sunday. So perhaps a frost as we begin things on Sunday, temperatures back to around average for the time of year. But equally, we're likely to see another low pressure lineup for Sunday itself to bring some more rain. And we've got that cold air in place. So as that low moves in, there's that continued risk of some snow on the leading edge, mainly for northern hills. So the usual places that we're seeing some snow this week, the Pennines, upland parts of Scotland, and so on. So that's how things look this weekend. Some disagreement in the computer models about timings of the first low clearing, this more settled but colder interlude before the next low comes along with further spells of rain and initially perhaps some hill snow. That low comes in, and what we're seeing at the moment, let's take a look at the bigger picture so I can explain how things are likely to pan out beyond this weekend. What we're seeing is this area of high pressure over Greenland exerting its influence, muscling the jet stream further south than normal. That's why we're seeing these areas of low pressure move in across the UK, and that's why we're seeing some colder air, never too far away from northern parts of the UK, milder air towards the south, and this battle between the cold air in the north, the mild air in the south, low pressure in between, bringing some moisture, and some of that turning to snow over northern hills. So why have we got Greenland? Why have we got high pressure over Greenland? Well, that's a legacy actually of the sudden stratospheric warming, which we have covered quite a bit in these deep dives. We've covered it in the 10-day trend at times as well. Now, if you remember, this happened back in the middle of February, around the February 16th, we had this big warming of the stratosphere above the North Pole, which disrupted things across the Northern Hemisphere, and they're still in a state of disruption. What we saw last week was this big area of high pressure over Greenland build and northerly winds, and for many, but not for all, not in, say, towards the far southwest, snowfall. Now, the jet stream has returned. It's pushed the colder air more towards the north of the UK, but it's still there. And this southward shifted jet stream is the result of the Greenland high, which is the result of that sudden stratospheric warming. So we're continuing to see these impacts of that sudden stratospheric warming that happened in the middle of February, even if it's not necessarily exactly like various impacts that we've seen in previous years gone by. But that's how it's looking at the moment. Question is how long it will last. And I've got a few maps here just to show you the kinds of things that are most likely to happen beyond this weekend. Now, the first one here shows the pressure anomaly, so the difference from normal expected from the European model for next Monday towards the following Monday. So for the 7-day period from Monday the 20th to Monday the 27th of March. And this shows that this anomalous low pressure just across central parts of the UK. Now, this is a southward shifted low compared to its normal track, which would be more towards Iceland. And we've got this anomalous high pressure over Greenland. So this suggests that next week we're going to see similar weather patterns. Cold air to the north. In fact, I've got that here, which is the most likely temperature anomaly. So cold air sitting just to the north, mild air carried by the low pressure to the south, and then low pressure sitting in between across central parts. Basically a repeat of what we're seeing this week. Sometimes the cold air will come a bit further south, sometimes the mild air will come a bit further north, but we've got that battleground. We've got the area of low pressure bringing spells of rain and wind. It's going to be unsettled. For many, that just means spells of rain, followed by drier and colder interludes, followed by further spells of rain, and mostly temperatures oscillating between average and above average. But for, say, hillier parts of northern England and Scotland, there is that potential because of the cold air not far from North Scotland and the low pressure bringing the moisture. There's that potential for further episodes of hill snow predominantly. Again, what we're seeing this week. So next week looks very similar. It's unsettled, colder towards the far north, milder towards the south, and we've got spells of wind and rain moving through with some transient snow on the leading edge. What about the following week? What's happening then is there are signs that the high pressure over Greenland will begin to shift towards Scandinavia. And there are also signals, this is low pressure now, that low pressure won't be quite so dominant across the UK. So perhaps becoming less unsettled for the final few days of March and becoming a little bit drier, a little bit calmer, although not necessarily completely settled. And as a result, we get clear skies at night and so on, and a wind direction that changes from southwesterly to more southeasterly or whatever, then as a result, it could turn a little colder. But at the same time, this is the time of year when temperatures are increasing. So the signal is fairly muted for temperatures that week. We've lost the strong cold signal from the far north. We've lost the milder signal from the far south. But I suspect if things do turn a bit more settled towards the end of March and the start of April, given the sun's increasing in strength as well, then it would feel a bit more pleasant at the same time. So those are the main signals for the rest of this week into next week and for the rest of March. But of course, we'll be keeping you updated each day. For the very latest, you can follow our YouTube channel. I recommend you hit subscribe so you don't miss any of these longer discussions. But thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you again soon.